Down in this van, episode 11. See, I'm in my car again. I'm going to talk today about overplaying. Now, it's a big thing, really. It's a big problem for a lot of people, myself included, although I'm out the other side now, hopefully. Now, when I was in my 20s, I did a lot of jazz gigs, fretless bass. I was the bass player in this band, and we used to do every Sunday lunchtime. And I'd be playing with fantastic musicians, really good musicians. Now, what do I mean by a good musician? Well, I mean somebody who knows how to bring across their knowledge in an accessible way. I don't mean somebody who can play at 500 million miles an hour and expect that that is the end of their musical career. They the end of their learning. They just carry on going. And I used to listen back to recordings of myself playing, and when it was my bass solo, I'd go, really? Because it was a jazz gig, you'd have bass solo on every gig. And I'd be trotting out all these theoretical sort of things, all these bits and pieces that I'd picked up or learnt. I made it my business to learn as much musical theory as I possibly could. So I like to think that I have a fairly sort of well-rounded and good knowledge of the theory, of all the theoretical concepts of music. Of course, there's going to be people that know more than me and people that know a bit less. It doesn't matter, because that's not what music is about. Now, I played this bass solo and it was sort of wandering about and doing all this stuff. And years later, very recently, I made a video about being a bass player. And I said the bass player is doing their job properly if they're not really noticed. Now, my brother, who is a slightly sick man, decided to sample my saying that. I said the bass player is doing their job properly if they're never noticed. He sampled it onto a drum pad. And then we did a gig together, and it came to my solo. So I was going, and he just hit that pad, and out through the PA system came, the bass player is doing their job. Now, all of us found it hilarious, myself included. I was actually sort of unable to breathe for a second, because it really was very, very funny. The funniest thing was just working out where this sound was coming from, and it was through the PA system. And he waited until my bass solo to do that. Now, he knows, he phones me up and said, well, you needed that. You needed my sort of doing that. And I thought, well, I suppose I did. Yeah, it's always good to have feedback. Although, in that sort of way, it's slightly oblique, perhaps. But it made a point. Now, when I play a bass solo, in the sort of recent years, I've realised that playing a bass solo is about playing a few notes really rhythmically and punchy. Maybe you might do some slap bass or something, and you can do slap bass if it's, in a tune that otherwise wouldn't, because it's your solo. Essentially, the tune's ended, you're doing a solo, and then you come back in with the tune again. So you can do anything with a solo. Now, overplaying is something that is really the result of a little bit too much theory, perhaps. It's also a sign of youth. Lots of younger people who play perhaps guitar or whatever, they will come and they'll play a solo that's just lots and lots of notes. And it's great because they're learning. It's fine. It's fine. But it's really, I would liken this to a chest of drawers where you have 100 individual drawers in that cabinet, and you put into one of those a music theory idea, and then you do the same for the other 99. So you've got 100 boxes, 100 drawers that have all of your little music theory tidbits in. Now, let's imagine you pull them out all at once. Well, the chest of drawers is going to collapse in a heap on the floor, and it'll just be stuff everywhere. It'll just be a mess. That is the musical equivalent. Well, that's the chest of drawers equivalent of what would happen in a musical situation if you decided to do that. If you just overplay, the chances are it's just going to fall to bits and be woefully inappropriate. So why don't you take one idea and another idea and think, maybe I could do something like this. And you're thinking about it, but you're also restricting yourself. You're not playing 58 notes a second anymore. You're playing one or two notes and then working out how far you can go with those two things. If you look up Benny Gren on YouTube, there's a Benny Gren drum lesson, which is an absolute eye-opener. He says improvise, just little improvisation where you play one bar and then you try and repeat what you've just done. So it's good for your short-term memory, and at the same time it restricts you from overplaying. It's absolutely inspirational video, and it shows, I mean, of course it shows him playing sort of complicated stuff as well, but the fact remains is he plays simple stuff and it just repeating, and it's really good, really good. I highly recommend it. You can see the link below. Now, when you are if you've gone to one of the prestigious sort of jazz colleges, or maybe if you're a classical musician, you've been to a music college or conservatoire, or you've done a 3-year course in whatever other music, doesn't matter, music's music, and you've done all this stuff, and you get to the other end, you come out of college and there's no work, or you sort of muck in with everyone else who hasn't been to music college or hasn't been through the mill. It's easy to see how these musicians can become embittered by this. Now, I've never been embittered by somebody who hasn't gone to college doing better than I am. I haven't really experienced that at all. What I've actually done is tried to take a leaf out of their book and do things that that are more musically appropriate. And I do a lot of recording sessions. I get recording work. It's mostly violin, but I get some piano arrangements as well, and a bit of guitar maybe. And one thing that I always do when I'm recording is to make sure that rhythm is king. The rhythm is absolutely number one. The notes, if it's a solo, for example, a violin solo, I will take gaps and I'll make sure that the notes are absolutely on point rhythmically, because then it just sits in a mix. You're not sort of playing something that's dominant, or it's interrupting the vocal line, or otherwise distracting from the sort of the top line, which is the vocals, or horn line, or whatever it is, which is the song. The song is about the top line. So as a supporting player, you've got to do your best to make sure that that top line works, leaving aside the solos and my brother sampling things and playing them back. Yes. Leaving aside those moments, because actually those moments are, as I said, where the song is stopped and you do your solo and the song resumes. Now, as a guitarist, of course, that's a little bit different. Usually you would do your solo over the chord sequence of the song. You may refer indeed to the vocal line of the song in your solo. Things like that are really nice things to do. They really connect what you're doing with the song, and it connects the audience with the song, and it makes the audience go, oh, that solo, oh, that's great. Now, you can be playing things back to people who have no musical theory knowledge at all, literally none, and they will know if a solo is good or not. And it really, if there's a solo that just goes on and is lots and lots and lots of notes, they'll get bored very quickly. Now, if you listen to somebody like Quincy Jones, the production of Quincy Jones, so I'm referring really to those Michael Jackson albums, Off the Wall and Thriller, those are bad, dangerous. All of those albums, you can hear Quincy Jones's production skills. You can hear his musical skill. He is somebody who has all the music theory knowledge. Like, it's everywhere, the whole lot. But you listen to something like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Michael Jackson, and it's mostly the same riff all the way through. It's just what happens in all the supporting parts, and the brass lines, and the synth lines, and then that middle section, that you just think, oh, they're massive sort of musical tidbits that come out, and they are delivered in such a way that a non-musician can appreciate them. That's really important. Now, I'd liken this to, I don't know, a chef. So you ask for a bowl of soup. So the chef isn't going to put every single bit of culinary knowledge that they have into a bowl of soup. You know, they're putting 55 different ingredients in a bowl of soup, and you get it and you go, wow, what? They will use their knowledge to think, oh, it would be best if I had these 5 things, or these 5 things or those 5, and put those in the bowl, mix them together and cook it and garnish it with a nice little bit of parsley, whatever it is. And you'll taste the soup, oh, delicious, lovely. There might be even fewer than 5 things. As a musician, you should be thinking about that when you're delivering something. And you're delivering your musical package. So we go back to pitch, time, tone, shape and performance, which I talked about in the last episode. That's the way that the ABRSM examine pieces. It's pitch, time, tone, shape, performance. So pitch and time are the main 2, where you got your notes and rhythm, and then you got your tone, and then you got your performance, or the shape and performance, so shape being dynamics. All of these things make a solo what it is, and they make music what it is. So if you are one of those people who has done a lot of studying and knows all their music theory and is kind of wondering why things maybe aren't working so well, then it's about the other things. It's about the finer things in musical life. It's about those tonal and sort of shape controls that you have. So there we go, and I'm looking forward to my brother's next drum pad sample. No doubt he'll play me something else during my bass solo.